everyone. Hello. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? There we go. Okay, good. Oh, right. I had to wait till the music stopped. I think someone told me to do that. My name is Leslie. I'm the Executive Director at the ALS Society. I want to thank you so much for coming tonight and spending this time with us. I've written myself some notes. It's kind of like my Oscar speech. I want to make sure I thank everybody that I'm supposed to. So we've got people today in the room, which is so exciting. And then we've got some people joining us virtually across the province. So we'll make sure that we engage with them. Rob, that's Rob's job. So we're joined today by people living with ALS. We're joined by caregivers, spouses, partners, siblings, children, those who are just committed to being here and supporting people living with ALS. And we thank you so much for being here. Stories matter. This is the whole reason why we're doing this. ALS is already such a difficult diagnosis, but we really need to tell the stories of the people that are living with it and those people that are affected by it. It's going to help build connection, and it's going to reduce isolation. I want to thank our storytellers here tonight and those that are virtually online. The courage it takes to reflect on your life, to share your experience, and to share it publicly is not easy, and I really appreciate that you've done this tonight. It's both generous, and it's also takes a lot of vulnerability, so thank you. So tonight is not just a film screening. It's an opportunity for reflection, connection, and honoring those that we've lived with ALS. So I'd like to pass it, first I need to introduce Mike, and he's given me his bio, which I'm probably just gonna read. So we're so honored to be working with Dr. Mike Lang. He's a health researcher, award-winning filmmaker, digital storytelling facilitator, and he's also an assistant prof at U of C in the Faculty of Nursing. He has directed and produced 3 feature-length documentaries, 3 short web series about the human health experience, in addition to numerous health education curricula. Mike has also facilitated the creation of over 1,000 digital stories with a diverse cross-section of patients, families, caregivers, and healthcare professionals around the world. He's worked with some people already in this room. He's worked with our families tonight. And we're so honored that we have such a great relationship with Mike that he's willing to help us facilitate the storytelling with our families. So I'd like to pass it on to Mike. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie. Yeah, echo everything that Leslie said about the storytellers tonight. It is about the stories, but it's also about conversation. I think one of the best things about a good story is that it leads to good conversation. So we're going to be talking with each other together tonight a little bit. But before you sort of get to meet the people around you, I mean, a lot of you guys, we got like a cheering session for Dan here, then we got Peyton and Ireland's cheering session over there, so there's lots of people that you already know here. But whether you realize it or not, everyone in this room is probably one of the coolest people that you will ever meet, because I think people who show up to things like this are super cool. So we're going to start by giving a high five to 5 people around you and say, you're super awesome. I can't wait to chat with you tonight. Ready, set, go. High five.
You're super
awesome. There we go. There we go.
Come on.
All right, we got people traveling. All right. Some people are taking the 5 high fives very seriously. Awesome. Great. Like I said, like Leslie said, these may not be easy stories to watch, right? There may be emotions, but real emotions come with real stories. And that'll just be part of the night, right? But hopefully, even if it is a little emotional at time, it'll be good, right? Dan and I, who you'll meet in just a moment, we're on CBC yesterday on the home stretch, chatting with Chris Delatorre, and he was asking us, why? Why would you get together and listen to stories like this? And one of the things that I shared is that I think it's through stories like this that we can glean wisdom from other people's lives and apply it to our own. And that's what I'm really hoping for everyone tonight, is that you'll be able to take a piece of wisdom from one of these stories and be able to bring it home with you. And what's really cool about when someone shares a story, you get to be a part of that story too. So all of you now will get to be a part of these 6 stories that we're going to watch tonight of the young adults. My favorite quote ever that I share all the time: facts bring us to knowledge, but stories lead to wisdom. by Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen in her book, Kitchen Table Wisdom. And for me, you know, I think in healthcare, and one of the reasons why I'm focused on telling stories in healthcare is we've been really good at facts and knowledge, right? For years, we can give you brochures and pamphlets and websites and all the information you may need. But what we haven't been good at historically is sharing the stories of people who have walked this path. So that people can glean wisdom from those stories and apply it to their own lives. So that's really what tonight is all about. And because that's what tonight is all about, that means we're going to be chatting with each other about the stories. We're going to bring the storytellers up on stage. We're going to have a conversation with them after each of them. And just because you may know some of the people around you, I think people have come in groups, we're going to play a little game to get to know some of the people around you because you'll be chatting with them tonight. So we're going to get everyone here. You're going to turn around because you're probably sitting next to someone you already know. You're going to chat for just 2 minutes, and you have to come up with 3 things that you both have in common. All right? 3 things. That's the goal. And afterwards, we're going to see what the funniest ones that people came up with were. Try and be creative. It can't be that you know someone with ALS or you're connected to the ALS Society, right? That's sort of cheating, right? So try and be really creative and come up with something that you have in common. So everyone turn around, find someone else you don't know, and come up with 3 things. Ready, set, go.
Just so you know. People are all saying that online.
Oh, no.
Lost my link.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, we're back on that. Got somebody in from Mexico.
No way.
Yeah.
Amazing. Calgary, Edmonton, Calgary. Awesome. Very cool. How many people we got online?
Oh, 55. It's pretty good.
Whoa, that's a lot actually. Very cool. Yeah, I think the chat could be going. What are we doing for time? All right, you have 1 more minute. 1 more minute. All right. Come on back, everyone. All right. Well, we'll see what people came up with. And then maybe at the end, I'll share one of the best ones I've ever heard. But let's hear a couple commonalities. What did you guys get down here?
First time being student, we both love audiobooks.
You both love audiobooks.
We've both been to Italy.
Both been to Italy?
We both wear glasses.
And you both wear glasses. There we go. It's sort of low-hanging fruit, but we'll take it. We'll take it. Awesome. Yeah, all right. Those are some good ones. Okay, what about back here? Someone else shout out what they found in common with their person. All worked at Lululemon. Okay, awesome. No one born in Calgary. That's like, wait, really quickly, who was actually born in Calgary? Well, that's a lot more than I was expecting. That's amazing. Okay, all right. And what was your other one? And you've all been to London. All right. Well, we got some world travelers in the room. That's awesome. Italy, London. Let's go back over here. Maybe back in the bleachers there. What's shout out something you guys found in common? You're both into baking. All right. You live in the west side of Calgary. All right. West Siders. Like it. And you all think it's great to support events like this. Well, hey, there's a commonality for the room because everyone's here. I love it. Awesome. You know, one of the reasons why I like to play that game, especially at the beginning of something like this, is first of all, you get to know the people around you. You're going to be chatting with each other a little bit tonight. But I think it hints at probably the most important thing that I hope everyone takes away from tonight is that we may be here listening to stories about ALS, but that's not who we are. Right? It's just a piece of our life. Sometimes it's a really big piece, right? As a caregiver or someone diagnosed with it, it can come in, it can take over, right? And we all know this. A lot of you have experienced this. But it's not who you are. And I think it's really important to be reminded of that, right? It's a piece of your identity. It doesn't define who you are. And that's partly why we chose the title tonight, Still Speaking. Because, ALS, it can take a lot of things from you, but it can't take your ability to still speak to others, whether it's through the actions, through, the way that you interact with people, the things that you leave behind. There's lots of ways to speak in our life. It's not just through our voices. And so that's one of the reasons why I thought maybe this would be a good title for tonight. Tonight, you're going to hear some stories of parents, of loved ones, of kids, who are still speaking. There's voices that echo for a long time, even though someone may have lost their voice. And so we're going to jump right into our first story tonight because I think it's a really unique one in that it sort of demonstrates this idea of still speaking. First, we're going to watch Dan's story. It's called A Better Man. One of the things that was unique about Dan's story, out of the 1,000 stories, Dan, you were the very first person to use an AI voice that sounded like you, right? But we wrote the voiceover together. Then people record the voiceover, but Dan typed it into his phone and used his AI voice to be able to tell his story. And after that, we collected all the images together and we put them into the video editing program. And Dan actually made this film. He was the director. I just got to be the editor. So I was sitting next to him on the couch. He'd tell me what he would want. I'd put it together. And that's what all these stories were made. They're actually made by the person. They're not made by me. They're made by each of the storytellers. And I think that's one of the things that makes digital storytelling so special. They're not professional Hollywood people, right? They're just everyday people like me and you telling the important stories of their life. So, still speaking, here we go. Story number 1, A Better Man. Let's roll the story. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Oh, last thing. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Alex. As you're watching, I want you to think about one thing, just one thing that resonates with you in the story. Because there's always something, there's a commonality that you might be able to find between your own life and Dan's life. And so think about that one thing that resonates with you in the story. It could be a word, could be an idea, could be an image. And then we'll have a chance to chat about it with the people around us afterwards, to share what resonates with us in the story before we bring Dan up on stage and we chat with him about his story. So think about your one thing that resonates with you. Here we go. Better Man, roll it.
I knew it right away as soon as the doctor put Gwen on Kate's chest. We were going to be best buddies. Looking at them, I realized for the first time at 33 what I wanted to do with my life. I had always been a little jealous of people who had a definitive career, a direction and desire to pursue it. I had never found anything. So I had spent a decade with substance abuse issues, working random jobs, until one day I filled out a profile on Plenty of Fish. After sending out dozens of messages, one person wrote me back. A couple months into our relationship, Kate told me that my profile picture was ugly and my profile was boring. But something told her to write me back. On our fourth date, we were sitting by English Bay, and I said, I am going to tell you something that might be detrimental to what this is, but I am in love with you. She said, I love you too. 3.5 years later, we were married and living in Calgary when Kate called me crying one evening. She was working in a group home for pregnant teens, and I immediately thought something had happened until she blurted out, I'm pregnant. The first few months were a blur. There is nothing that prepares you for being a parent, but there were so many little moments of fun. I remember joking that Kate was the lunch truck. I remember taking Gwen out for the first time and feeling so proud. And I remember the first day back at work after that first Christmas when I was laid off. Later that night, talking with Kate, she said, you have been unhappy for so long, and now you have the opportunity to do something you want to do. Everything will be okay. We have each other. The next few years, I got to spend so much time with Kate and Gwen. So many little moments, moments that they may not remember, but ones that I cherish. When Oscar came, it felt like our little family was complete. Playing in leaves the day he showed up, then in the snow at the playground. Cuddling on the couch watching a movie, knowing there is nowhere else you would rather be. Nothing else you would rather be doing. Being a dad was what I was made for. This last year of my life, I have been able to focus entirely on being a dad. After my ALS diagnosis, I am living my life in dog years. Family trips, adventures with Kate and other friends. Creating lasting memories and spending the time is all that matters. But the memories that I love the most are the little ones. Yesterday I was in the backyard with the kids, having them help me with the fall cleanup. Gwen put the brown bag over her head, and I snuck up and tickled her before I pushing her over and covering her with leaves. They may not have realized in the moment that years down the road when they are cleaning up leaves in their own backyards, they will remember Leafs fights with their dad. They won't remember how I sounded or that I couldn't open the bag. It was one of those little moments that are actually a very big moment. When I look back on the last 14 years since meeting Kate, I would make all the same choices. All I have ever wanted to do is be a better man for them.
Wow, there you go. Dan's story, everyone. Man, there's so many things that stand out for me in that story, right? And not just the fact that I have kids the same age and I love playing in the leaves with them, right? But just that idea that these little moments can actually become big moments when we start to look at them for what they are, which is really important, moments of connection with the people that you love. It's beautiful. So I'll give you a moment now just to turn to a person nearby, share the one thing that resonates with you in the story, and then we'll get Dan up on stage and we'll chat with him. Ready, set, go. All right. Yeah, you can come on up. Yeah. All right. All right. All right.
No.
Good. You got it. You got it. All right. We'll just give you one more minute if you're chatting with someone around you about what share. But just so you guys know, we're also sharing this online. Actually, let's just chat with Dan. But there are a lot of people online having a conversation over here with Rob. And for everyone online, I apologize I didn't welcome you. We're excited you're here with us tonight to be a part of this conversation. And so I'm just going to throw it over to Rob. Rob, is there any sort of comments that have come through online that people are reflecting on what resonated with them?
Yeah, a couple of people just mentioned that it's the little moments, the moments that matter most are just those little things like leaf fights with Dad and the bag, crawling into the bag. But yeah, and spending quality time with family, enjoying every possible moment. Andrea had a couple of comments like that. So fantastic. People are really engaged with your story, Dan.
Cool. Yeah.
And they're very excited the fact that you will be our Calgary side-by-side for ALS ambassador.
Yeah, ambassador. Should I refer to you as ambassador now? Ambassador to Dan? I mean, it's got a nice ring to it. Awesome. Well, Dan, I mean, there's so many different pieces to the story, right? And there's so many directions you can go when you choose to tell a story, about your life. And so, really quickly, why did you decide that you wanted it to be about this? How did the theme, the message, the idea of the story come about?
Well, I didn't know what it was going to be about until we started talking about it.
Me and Dad had a few moments like this while we were building the story, sitting on the couch in the living room together for sure. Yeah.
The mic is heavy.
All right.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah. Okay.
When I start talking about having ALS, it always seems to go back. It always goes back to my family and how important they are to me. So just from answering your questions when we were building my story, no matter what it was, I'm sure you remember, it always came back to them. And, having a new perspective since being diagnosed helps you appreciate the things that you have, the people that are closest to you, man, at the end of the day, they're all that matter.
Yeah, it's true. You know, we usually start with a story, a big story like this. We start by saying, you know, what are some of the most meaningful moments? It's partly why we called this, you know, Young Adults, ALS, and the moments that shape us. And as Dan was sharing his moments, all the moments were about Kate and about his kids, right? Every single moment that mattered to him was family, and that became very clearly the theme that he was going to explore. And then I started asking some fun questions like, how'd you meet Kate? He's like, well, plenty of fish. Apparently, I had a terrible photo, right?
Actually, in the video, we lined it up really good. That picture that showed when I was talking about my profile was the same one that was my profile picture. My ex-girlfriend took that picture. And another one was I was talking about my substance abuse issues, and we timed it perfectly with my Freddie Mercury costume.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's really cool about the stories, right? Is that everything was done for a reason. The images we chose, the timing, the pacing, the music, all of it, right? And it's really cool how you can, you know, make choices about how you tell the story. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that. Well, you know, you can't choose what happens to you, but you always get to choose how you tell the story. Right. And I love how you chose to tell the story in a very thoughtful way, right? So, yeah, I love it. Well, so Dan, when you were watching it tonight, was there a thing that you saw differently? Sometimes it's interesting to see your life up on the big screen, you know, and watching it with a group of people. You know, what was it like for you to watch it tonight?
Humbling. Again, one of my symptoms is not being able to control my emotions. So when I cry like this, it's part because I have ALS, but also because I am a bit of a sissy. But no, just hearing everybody laugh at the parts that were meant to be funny, and, you know, clap and show the appreciation for the story. And I've watched it enough times to prepare for tonight that I wasn't gonna cry through the whole thing. So I'm used to seeing it by now.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things about it, right? Is you watch it, you hear your voice over and over, you work on things, right? And you do sort of get used to, you know, the story in a way, right? And I think one of the things that everyone has to really get used to is the sound of their voice, because everyone hates the sound of their own voice.
Especially now.
Yeah. So what was it like for you, you know, to use the AI voice and sort of listen to what you sounded like?
I thought it was pretty cool. You know, we see how AI is used now, and I think this is the way to do it. It sounds so much more like me than I do now. But being able to, you know, put my thoughts into like my phone and then have it come out sounding like me, very odd.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, and I remember we were working on the story, and Kate happened to be in another room, and I know it was a moment for you to hear that because you hadn't heard it in a while, right? And you know, that brings me back to one of my favorite parts is all the family photos, right? They're incredible, you know, the family photos. And, you know, we all collect these little photos on our phones and things like that, right? But for some reason, when you put them into a story like this, you realize that all those little photos are moments, right, of connection that you have with your kids, with your spouse. You know, there's so many meaningful things that happen every day that we just have sitting on our camera rolls. And there's something amazing about how you picked out all those photos, you know, for a specific reason. What was one photo in the story that you chose for a very specific reason, apart from your Plenty of Fish profile and your Freddy Krueger costume? What was one photo that means a lot to you?
The first one of Kate and I, where I'm kissing her on the cheek, that was taken in a stairwell in the club in Vancouver. Charles and Char were there that night. But that has always been my favorite picture of us. Like we recreated it on our wedding day, and really any chance that we get, it was important that I showed that one. And the one with the two kids around the same age, buried up to their shoulders in the leaves. I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, I love that one. A little moment that will become a big moment
one,
in their life. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you know, so last question. I mean, we could keep talking for a while. Me and Dan, you know, we hung out. I don't know how long we worked on your story, but we had great conversations, you know, just as dads, you know. And you know, this is really a story of fatherhood, right? You know, of being a spouse and a father. You know, what would be one thing that you would hope other dads take away from your story?
Here we go. That's a hard question.
No, I warned them beforehand. I usually ask questions I didn't tell them I would
That
ask.
wasn't on the list.
No, it wasn't on the
of
list.
the questions.
I guess I'm wondering. I'm a dad. I want to know. I want to know what you have to say.
I think that is basically the overall message of my story is about appreciating the little things. You know, for those of us that have kids, you know, you have those moments when you wanna, you know, toss them down the stairs, you know. Like when Ashley do that.
I know. We'll edit that out of the live stream.
Yeah. But just to appreciate everything, like if you've had a bad day at work and you get home and your kids are there. This is hard. To remember the moment, whether you have ALS or not, it doesn't matter. You can be as healthy as it can be and take everything for granted, but life is so short and fleeting that anytime you have a chance to hold on to any little memory that brings you even the smallest bit of happiness, especially with your kids, because either, well, you know, they're not going to be small forever, and they're not going to be around forever either. So,
Yeah. That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's really easy, I think, for everyone to get caught up in the little things of life that aren't big things, right? And I love how you talked about in your story, the littlest things like playing in the leaves are actually the big things, right? You know, and I mean, I think you chose a great title for your story, A Better Man, right? Because I think, was that me? Oh, that's right. I did have that idea because that's what the story was about, right? Yeah. But you know, I just like that idea, right? Of being able to be at the time of life you're at and reflecting on all the things that have actually helped you. You know, and I love that part of the story where you say, the last year I've got, you know, and it's interesting the words you chose. I got to focus on being a dad full time, right? Mm-hmm. You could have said that a lot differently, right? You could have chosen a different phrase, but you chose that phrase, right? You're focusing on what you do have, and those kids are something that really matters, right? So I love it. Yeah, I think, anyways, maybe I chose the title A Better Man because that's what Dan is, you know? So let's hear a big round of applause for Dan for getting up here. Yeah, man. Hey, there we go. We got it. Cool. Hey, thanks so much, Dan, for being willing to do that. It's awesome. He's going to make a great ambassador, isn't he? Yeah. I think we should probably all call him Mr. Ambassador for the rest of the night. So let's make sure. Your worship? Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, you know, a great way to kick us off. And yeah, we're going to just roll right into our next story. You know, hopefully everyone was able to glean some wisdom from that conversation like I was as a dad every time I sat down with Dan. So the next story we have coming up is Peyton's story. Peyton is here in the room with us too. She's right in the audience there. We will get her up on stage in a bit, but we're sort of switching gears completely. We had a story from a dad. Now we're going to hear a story from a teenager. Almost like it could be the kids, right, that are represented here. So Peyton was a teenager when her mom was diagnosed. You're going to hear all about her experience, and then we'll get to chat with her afterwards. As you watch, just like with Dan's story, think of one thing that resonates with you in the story. It can be a word, an image, an idea, and we'll have a chance to chat about it as a group afterwards. So, ready, set, go. Peyton.
My best friend by my side on the dock in my favorite place. Our feet in the water as we gushed over all the things to come with high school starting next month. New school with a lot of new people and experiences ahead. But in the back of my mind was a nagging feeling that something was off. This summer felt different. I turned to Kate and asked, "Do our moms seem okay to you?" She looked at me with sad eyes. She had noticed it too. They were whispering and emotional. Was it her mom? Was it mine? Is someone sick? 3 months later, we had gotten our answer. My brother flew home from his first semester of college, and we were all together as a family for Thanksgiving when our parents sat us down and shared the diagnosis. ALS. She had ALS. My stomach dropped. I felt so unsure about what this meant. As they addressed the timeline and what this diagnosis meant, the tears started falling. Would she be at my graduation? My wedding? Would she even be here next Thanksgiving? Time chipped away at her quicker than we thought. Difficulty walking with a cane quickly turned into a walker, which led to a wheelchair. We spent the next 2 years traveling, living out some of my mom's dreams, and prioritizing family time while she was still mobile. We did game drives across the beautiful plains in Kenya, more time at the lake, and of course, my other favorite place, Disneyland. She was determined to make memories that would stay with us for our whole lives, and that is exactly what we did. She was our mom, our super mom. I watched her juggle 4 kids' schedules, always having time for each of us, fresh cookies baked, and the home perfectly decorated for each season. I did my best to take over those traditions with her guidance, but I yearned for her to be my mom the way she was before. From her chair, she would let us know exactly how the Christmas trees should be positioned, what to wear to certain events, or how exactly to best prepare the French toast. ALS tried to make it very difficult for her to mother us, but she found a way. Our relationship wasn't the typical mother-daughter relationship. We were closer than that. We truly were best friends and similar in many ways. My friends would often share how similar our laughs sounded, and her friends would say how similar we looked. Those comments were always the biggest compliment to me. One day, she was sitting in the living room as I was headed out to the Calgary Stampede, going to try my luck at getting into the bar. I kissed her goodbye and attempted to dash out the door, but she had that look in her eye that told me she had something to say. She wasn't able to speak on her own and had to use a computer. It took time to form full sentences, so I sat, and I waited and I waited. A stern look on her face as her eyes met mine, and the computer said, "Are you effing kidding me? I can tell you don't even have a bra on. Go downstairs and change right now." I burst into laughter. She bursts into laughter. Hers is different than mine now. They used to sound the same. She laughed without sound, but with all the emotion. I hugged her, I did as she wished, and as I changed, I realized we had just shared a very typical mother-teenage-daughter moment, and I loved her for it. She was still my mom, unable to speak, move, yell, laugh, or cry, but she was still my mom, and I was still her daughter. She did make it to the next Thanksgiving, and she was able to attend my high school graduation. This past summer, I got married, and I know she was watching from above, and I made sure to save her the most special seat.
Oh, it's okay. I think we all needed a minute anyway. Man, still my mom, right? I love it. I love sort of that idea that she can still swear at you through a computer, and and you can still try to sneak out of the house. You know, to me, that's what really resonates with me. That story. Remember when during the workshop you shared that story, and we were laughing so hard, just like everyone here, and we were just like, "Wow, I think that's your story right there. She was still your mom." I love it. So wanted to give everyone here a chance to share what stood out to them in the story. So we'll give you just a couple minutes here. We'll get Peyton up on screen, or on stage here. So turn to someone next to you and share what resonated with you. Ready, set, go.
I'll give you a sign.
All right. All right, pink microphone for you.
Thank
There
you.
we go. Were you part of the Lululemon table?
I am the Lululemon table.
Yeah, she is. She opens Lululemon stores, so I thought she. So Peyton, we're gonna chat for a minute, but first, I think maybe let's head to the chat online. Rob, what are people saying? What are they resonating with?
Yeah,
Peyton's
lots
story?
of comments, Peyton. Lots of comments about resonating with your story. Bert said she laughed without sound. She was still her daughter and still your mom. and it was just a cool moment. Christy says, I love how Peyton shared that her mom was super mom and still gave her guidance from her chair. So touching, all of it. And Sarah said how her love with her mom stayed the same as life changed. Always a super mom. Thank you, Peyton, for sharing your family.
Yeah.
Very
Amazing.
cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's so true, right? You know, laughing without sound. It's still possible, right? It's something, you know, when you think about the title, Still Speaking, right? Your mom's still speaking today, but she definitely was in that moment too, where she was telling you, you know, I know what you're doing. So, yeah, where were you headed?
Calgary Stampede.
Calgary Stampede. Yes, yes. I learned a lot. I have a daughter who's only 8, so I'm figuring I'm learning a bit from these stories about parenting. Peyton, you know, there was lots of things that you could have chosen, right? Why did you choose the moments you chose in your story? There's a couple of them, really big ones. You know, out of all the millions that you could have chose, why did those ones stand out to you?
I think for me, my mom was sick at like such a formative time of my life as a teenager, and there was just a need for me to like still want to, you know, do the things I'm maybe not allowed to do or have fun with my friends. And I think sometimes what would come with that was like feeling guilty to like stay home because time is so precious. And I'm not saying you should only stay home, and I'm not saying you should only go out, but it's still trying to find a way to like live your life and find joy when it's sometimes difficult to be home, even though all you want to do is be home. It's a balance, but for me it was a fun story to share because I'm sure there's lots of families who, when the diagnosis comes, they're teenagers or early 20s or anything like that. And so I thought if the ALS Society could share this story with some of those families, they might feel like it's actually okay to go out drinking with your friends if you need that moment to just like be you, and then your family, you get those times too. So
Yeah, you know, I think...
not to condone underage drinking.
Yeah, I know, yeah. We'll edit that on the live stream too. Wow, we're 2 for 2 here.
We're keeping it real.
Yeah. You know, I love that idea though of, you know, life doesn't stop, right? And sometimes I think with such a serious diagnosis, it feels like it does for a while. And I think what I like about your story is how your family, you know, I'm sure there was moments where it felt like everything was stopping, but at the same time, there were so many things that you did, right? You list them off. You game drives across Africa, safari, right? You know, like doing all these things, going to Disneyland, right? So that there was these big trips. But what were some of the other little ways, apart from your mom calling you out, what were some of the little ways that life didn't stop? That because I think, you know, there's probably parents who might watch this thinking, how do I encourage my teenager to continue living their life while we're going through something like this? You know, what were other little things that your mom did to help you do that?
My mom was like the most organized person ever. She still attended every single sporting event. I talked about it a little bit, but like the decorating of the Christmas tree. One of my aunties will tell a story where she, you know, her and my mom, we pushed her around Crate and Barrel, and she said with her eyes what to buy, and then you know, we still got to do those things, and she was truly still my mom the whole way through. And I think it would be easy to just be like, well, I'm here together, you have to sit in the chair, so I guess we'll just watch a movie. She was like, nope, we're going out, we need to purchase this, purchase that, so it makes it easier for me, and was always just letting us know the things that would make it so she could go out every day. She got up, did her makeup, did her hair. Well, my dad, you know, learned how to do all those things and did it for her, and it was just get up, get ready, we have a day to live and a family to run, and she just put her best foot forward in the cane, the walker, the chair, whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing. With her eyes, right?
With
Still
her
speaking,
eyes.
with her eyes. That's probably got to be my favorite part in the story, where she looks at you and you're like, oh man, she has something to say, you know? And then when she hits play on the thing and she looks at you again, and man, you just bring us right into that moment of connection that you have with your mom. It's such a beautiful moment, you know, where, you know, that sort of brings us back to that idea of still speaking, right? And, you know, it's maybe we could expand that, still living, right? You know, like you guys lived life in lots of ways, not just sitting at home, right, because of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, there's some big moments that you included in there, right? Like going to Africa is a big moment. But what was one that maybe you couldn't put in the story? Because you know, we have to make choices. We only have 3 to 4 minutes. What was a big moment that really stands out to you that you weren't able to fit in there?
That's a really hard question. I feel like there's so many. I don't know. I just honestly think there was like a ton. Like I'm trying to.
You know, I've done this to 2 people now, as you can tell.
Another
Going off
big
script here.
moment.
Yeah. How about this? I got a question for you then. As you were watching, looking at the images there, was there one that really stood out for you as you were watching it tonight?
Well, I love that image because we just look like mother-daughter. Like you can just see that so clearly. So I love that photo so much. I feel really thankful for that photo. Putting my story together was kind of difficult because people just didn't take pictures then the way they did now, or it wasn't all digitalized. So going through all the different albums, and I'm like, I know there's this photo somewhere, or I gotta find this one. Like how many photos did we take and put back in, or stock images to then be like, I found it, Mike, on the next one. So for me, it's that one, but I cherish every photo because often moms are the ones behind the camera too. So not the ones in the photo.
Yeah, so just finding them all. What was it like for you combing back through all those photos, while you were working on your story?
Yeah, I love going through photos, but I definitely need to optimize how that are all stored. So a little bit of note for me there. But yeah, you know what? It was so great, and it was just great to see like my mom a lot younger, and as I like kind of approach a little bit closer to that age than I was the kids' photos. So just cool to see like different photos of her, and I love fashion, so I was always looking at her different looks and her different hairstyles, and just like remembering, because sometimes the ALS mom is what sticks with me and that ALS voice, but remembering and just actually hearing back, like my dad shared a voicemail a little while ago that I had never heard, and I was like, who was that? But it was my mom before she was sick. So yeah, it's emotional to comb through everything.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, one of the things we talk about when we make the stories is that, it can be hard and it can be good at the same time. And I think sort of combing through all those photos, it can be hard and good, right? Listening to the voicemail, hard and good at the same time. And I love how what you're describing is that those things aren't mutually exclusive, right? You can have both at the same time. And I love how you did the hard combing through the photos to create this story, because now all these photos are shared in such a beautiful way to help people realize she was still your mom, even now, right? So.
Thanks, Mike.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, hey, one more round of applause for Peyton for coming up here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing it. Yeah, that was awesome. Great. Amazing. Cool. Well, from parents to kids, and I don't know what story we're going next because my phone has died and I no longer have notes. So we're watching Mike McKinnon. So Mike is up in Edmonton. He's live online with us tonight. We will get to chat with him virtually after we watch his story here. And I love Mike's story, a tribe that moves with me. We've talked about parents, talked about kids. Now we're going to talk about friends. They're a part of this story too. So here we go. We're going to watch Mike's story. As you watch, think about one thing that resonates with you in the story. Let's roll it.
So I looked over at Shannon. She was sitting next to me in the waiting room. I wonder what they found in the MRI. I'm sort of eager to find out what is wrong so we can get it fixed. 10 months earlier, I had back surgery to fix an old fracture in my spine. The doctors thought that it might be the culprit for why I couldn't walk long distances. I'd been a Ukrainian dancer for years, so I knew how my legs should be moving, and it was really easy for me to notice that something was off. Shannon replied to me, I know. It will be good to not have it hanging over our heads anymore, especially going on the trip tomorrow. How much do you know about ALS? I looked over at Shannon. She was completely in shock. I reached over and I put my hand on her. Well, I've heard that when you get diagnosed, you usually have 2 to 3 years to live. Over the next 20 minutes, the neurologist explained everything and answered all my questions before explaining next steps and closing by asking, do you have any more questions? Shanna actually looked over at me. Mike, do you still want to go on the trip tomorrow? I don't know. Can I go? Yes, the doctor said. You should go. she told us that she thought it would help us take our mind off things. The next morning on the drive to the airport, so many scenes were running through my head. We were heading to the Okanagan to celebrate 3 40th birthdays, and I didn't know how to tell them the news. I didn't want my problems to be a big downer for the trip, but I could tell things were going to be miserable if I didn't get it off my chest. We all met up at the restaurant near the gate, and as we were sitting around drinking coffee, I was shaking inside. I knew I had to tell them right then. I knew that they wouldn't want me to hold it back. Conversation died as they kind of looked over at me. I turned to Shanna, and she sort of gave me the nod. So we were at the doctor's yesterday, and they told me I have ALS. It was quiet for a moment, and then I shared everything the doctor had said and the actions I was going to take. At the end of my monologue, I told them, there's not a lot of hope, but there's a little bit, and more than anything, I want to have fun this week with you guys. Slowly they started asking me some questions, and as we chatted, things started to feel different. I could feel immediate acceptance and reassurance, and as we walked to the gate, I knew that I really made the right choice to go on this trip and be around these people. I was just one of the 6. There wasn't really any pity in their eyes and their actions. This was my tribe. They would help me move through whatever came next. The next 5 days were amazing. There was lots of music, laughter, conversations. Of course, there was some good wine too. We all knew that ALS was there, and we didn't avoid it, but we also didn't focus on it. I did what I could with the group, and sometimes I stayed back with Scott. We played cards and chatted. It was different, but it wasn't any worse. On the last night, we sat around the living room and the lights were dimmed. I played my guitar softly. It was calm and comfortable. As I looked around, I realized that this was a familiar feeling. I'd done many trips with close friends over the years, living in close proximity for extended periods of time. I'd seen how being around people who you know and trust can help spread the grief around, so that you don't need to face it all on your own. I decided that I was starting the whole ALS experience off the right way, and I knew that no matter what happens, part of me will always live on through my tribe.
There we go. Mike's story. I think, Mike, the thing that resonates with me the most in your story is that line about spreading the grief around. I think that's amazing to think about how the people, the friends that you have in your life can help you do that in a pretty amazing way. So that's what stood out to me as I was watching tonight. There's lots of things that could be standing out to you as you've been watching Mike's story. So turn to the person next to you, share one thing that resonates with you, and then we'll get Mike up on the screen here. Ready, set, go. All right. Well, let's see if we can get Mike up on the screen here. Hopefully. Oh, there he is. Mike, good to see you, man.
Hey, everyone.
All right. Cool. Could you hear the applause?
Yeah, I could hear it. Good.
Okay, awesome. Great. Because, yeah, there was a lot of it. I love it. There's a lot of friends here tonight, Mike. And you know, I think that's such an important part of your story. And what I love about it is how you chose a single moment, you know, literally, I think it was like a 24-hour period of getting the diagnosis and then choosing to go on this trip. And that's what you focused your entire story on. But then you also layered in all sorts of other things into that. So I just wanted to start with that question. Why did you choose that moment, right? What was that so important about that you wanted to build your story around it?
I think that one really, like, it was a moment that hit really hard, and just something that I went from kind of like an extreme shock almost to a sort of just extreme tranquility and serenity, because in such a short amount of time. And it was something that sort of represented a much larger element of my life. So I could have pulled from a lot of different pieces of my life, but I think when Mike, you and I talked, we kind of said there was some value in telling a story that was of a certain moment in time, but that also had representation or kind of represented a larger part of your life.
Yeah, and I mean, I love, one of my favorite parts of your video is those crazy flips you were doing. I mean, that's insane. Like, he just went around, and that video clip that we included in there, it went on for like another minute, you know? He flipped around like 40 times. It just kept going. But I loved all the Ukrainian dancing sort of pieces that you brought into the story, because it showed your tribe, you know? That was your tribe of your younger self, and you've got another one now that's sort of walking with you through this ALS thing. You know, I guess one of the things that stands out to me so much is you were an athlete, right? You literally flipping around stage. You know, how did that, your diagnosis, impact sort of that image of yourself as someone who had these physical abilities that are like amazingly superhuman almost, you know, to do that many flips? You know, how has that impacted, I guess, sort of how you feel about yourself, how you view yourself now?
That's a great question. And I think that's one thing that I probably struggle with a lot. Like, I think up until maybe like a year and a half ago, so right before I kind of went in for that first surgery, I was still doing some of those dancing things. I wasn't like performing on a regular basis, but every once in a while they'd call me in to kind of jump in and perform with them. I was doing other types of dancing, but like a lot of the times I was still doing like a lot of those backflips. And so for me, I think growing up, I was kind of always one of these people that someone would say like, oh, hey, do you think we want to try this or do that thing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm just whatever idea it is or whatever thing we want to do, I'm just going to, jump up and go try that thing. And so suddenly it's really strange to sort of go from being down for whatever, being down to try whatever, to suddenly like you can't do any of those things that you used to do. So now it's kind of just, I've kind of gone from like being someone who valued my physical side to now I have to kind of value like what are the mental things that I still can do, what's sort of the wisdom that I can still share with my kids. They're both teenagers now and they're constantly like asking me about questions about things, and so I can't physically show them things or play sports with them or do any of those things I kind of hoped I would be able to do. But the one thing I could still do is share the wisdom I've learned over the years with the kids.
Yeah. Have they tried to sneak out on you yet? Just like Peyton?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. And I'm trying to think back, and I'm like, I remember there was like one time that my son was getting like rocks thrown at his window, like just, the pebbles thrown at his window because his buddy showed up at like 2:00 in the morning or something like that. And so he like told me the next day, he was like, yeah, I don't know what my friend was doing. Like he was just like throwing rocks at my window and wanted me to come and hang out. It was like 2 a.m. I'm like, well, that's awesome. I'm glad you didn't go out for that.
Yeah, you probably were thinking to yourself, wow, I'm a pretty good father. He didn't jump out the window and go with his buddy. That's awesome. I mean, to me, just based on what we just heard in Peyton's story, right? Some of those things, those regular teenage things, to me, it sounds like that's the sign of like a healthy caregiving relationship when teens are, interacting with their parents who have ALS. Is there things that you've learned, I guess, over the years from watching your tribe, about how to be a parent in the midst of something like this. Because I think it sounds like you have a really great relationship with your kids. And, as a dad, I'm always sort of wondering, what is it? What are some of the things that you're doing in the middle of all of this that allows you to have good relationships with your kids?
Oh man, there's a lot you could start with on that one, but I guess like the one thing that I felt like always helped with the relationship with my kids was like when they were really young. Like a friend of mine told me like, oh, kids they're gonna try and do whatever, and they're gonna try and do so many things. And if you gotta, if you say something to them like, don't do that, or this is gonna be the consequence, like you have to 100% absolutely follow through with that. And so we did that a lot when they were young, was where anything I said, I always made sure like I absolutely did. There was never any like, oh, go to your room or this is going to happen and then just not do it. It was like, if you say something, you got to mean it and do it. And because we kind of did that a lot with the kids when they're younger, I find that now they just, like, I never really have to tell them to do anything. They just kind of do the things that I'd already want them to do. And they sort of understand like what I value and what I want, how I want them to behave. And so they do those things. But they also seem to just tell me way more than I ever did with my parents. Like there's so many things that I used to sneak out and do whatever when I was a kid, but my kids are always like telling me like, oh yeah, we did this and I shouldn't have done that. And you're going to tell me that I shouldn't have done that, but they feel like open enough to actually say those things. So that's something that like, I think a lot of my friends and people have kind of taught me over the years and I brought into raising kids.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about that, open and honest conversations with kids, I think that probably transitions well into your experience with ALS. It sounds like, you guys have a really good relationship. What are those conversations like about ALS? Is that carried over into the openness, the honesty about how people are feeling and processing it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And those conversations are really, really hard. A lot of it is, I give all the facts to the kids, but I also do kind of point to like some hope, or like there's new things that are coming out. There might be some benefits to them. I might live longer than a year. I might not, kick the bucket right away kind of thing. But also, guys, just, these are the facts of the matter. I've said to my kids like a few times, like, no matter what, I'll never lie to you guys. I'll always like tell you the truth, because if I lie to you guys or I'm not honest with you guys about things, then you don't know what you can trust or what you can't trust. And so I've always been like, I don't really want to talk to them about this thing or tell them about this thing, but if I don't, they might, question other times if I'm being honest with them and being open. So yeah, I sat them down pretty shortly after my diagnosis and was like, this is what I have. I'm younger, so I'll probably live a little longer than say someone in their 70s that gets this. But yeah, just need to be open and honest with the kids.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always think, the best parents I've ever met are the ones who have really good parents for friends. There's a tribe of people, right, with the same sort of philosophy. Is any of your tribe online tonight? Are they watching up there with you in Edmonton?
I don't know. So I'm actually in Canmore for a like ski trip with my parents.
He's on a ski trip right now.
Yeah. So that was kind of part of the reason I couldn't also like make it there.
Yeah.
But so I'm not sure what my friends and such are doing in Edmonton. There was a bunch of them that were like said they were interested or signing up or something, but
okay.
I didn't necessarily like find out anything for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, do you want to shout out a few of your tribe right now? Because they can always watch this afterwards too. If there is anyone you want to shout out, of course, we just got to see their wonderful faces on the screen. We don't really know much about them, but how did you guys meet? And how are they continuing to support you through this as friends?
Oh yeah, so like the ones that went on the trip with us. So there's my wife Shanna, and so then there was Shannon and Les who were in those photos, and then there was Caitlin and Scott. And so there was the 6 of us that went on that trip, and we we kind of all live downtown Edmonton, so we all live like very, very close by. But we grew up with Shannon, and then we kind of met the other friends like along the way. But they've been kind of the people that, like, even during COVID, it was like, when COVID hit, it was like, okay, well, we need to have a small group of like people that we can visit and spend time with. And like our kids would run over to Caitlin and Scott's house, and their kids would come back over to our house. It's like they weren't visiting a lot of other kids, but they were visiting each other. And so it was kind of this more like old fashioned way of raising kids, where they just kind of go out, collect the other kids and run around playing, and they kind of run in and out of doors and things like that. So yeah, they're kind of the friends I have more as an adult, and the people I rely on more as an adult. But going back to like all of the Ukrainian dancing stuff, we'd be groups, or we'd be in a group, and we'd go travel parts of the world for like 3 weeks straight, and you're like with these people just every day. And so every element of anything that happens to you, anything that's hard, it's shared with like a big group of them, and it just never, things don't hit as hard when you have those kind of people by your side, and when you have a bunch of them that you're really spending a lot of time with day by day. It's just none of the problems ever really seem to affect you as much, because you're sharing them with everyone else.
Yeah, I love it. Man, what a piece of wisdom that you gained from early in your life, right? Of traveling the world with a bunch of Ukrainian dancers. I just imagine those trips were probably wild. Like for fun, you guys were probably doing backflips off tables and stuff, and swinging from chandeliers. I'm sure. Don't pretend like you didn't.
No, that's actually really accurate, because we would like have a party or something. Halfway through the party, you're like, okay, well now we're going to take a moment out to actually hit some music on, and we're all going to just basically try to outperform each other, do crazier stunts than each other. And those groups were like, it was half boys and half girls, so it was like almost completely even from the point where I was like 12 to the point where I was like 30. It was just always like half and half, and you're always just trying to outperform each other, but also it's a very like competitive, fun family kind of or group of people that you've got.
That's awesome. I mean, I love it. I'm sure there's some random things that happened on those trips where you got to share the grief around, right? And now, what I love is how you brought that in to your experience with ALS. And you have a new group of friends. It's a new type of experience. You're not out traveling the world, but you still have those you still have those people, right? That matter to you. So, man, what a beautiful way to think about friends, right? As a way to share these life experiences with, and help each other, right? Have fun in the middle of it. And I loved all those photos of your trip to the Okanagan, and you were still a part of things, even if you weren't able to go walk around wineries. You were still there, a part of the crew, right? And it's just a great picture of what it could be for friends to support someone with diagnosed with ALS. So thanks, Mike, for being here. I would say enjoy your ski trip, but maybe enjoy hanging out in the hotel when your parents come back, or is that what you're up to?
I'll enjoy the fireplace and the hot chocolate. And
all right, and the
it's
hot
all
chocolate.
the benefits of a ski trip without the actual like having to put any effort in.
Yeah, all the benefits. So the hot chocolate, the warm fire at the end of the day. That's awesome, Mike. Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your trip to be here with us. Let's give him one more round of applause here. Awesome. Great. Cool. Well, it's awesome he was able to come in. We've got 2 stories left. So we're gonna go right to our next story, which is Errol. Errol is here in person. Can't wait to chat with him afterwards. Errol was also a teenager, I believe, or early young adult when in his 20s. He was 20 when his dad was diagnosed. So we're going to hear his experience and what that looked like. So here we go. Errol's story. Play, pause.
In the second year of my avionics program at SAIT, I dropped out. I was feeling stressed and distracted all the time. A couple years earlier, I read the book Tuesdays with Maureen High School. I knew what ALS was and how it affected people. And now my dad had it. I couldn't focus on anything. My grades were bad. I didn't really have many friends in the program. Didn't really feel like being there anymore. At first, my dad was still independent enough to do things on his own. We played Halo together growing up, and he still had enough control in his hands to play video games. In only 6 months, he went from driving to living in Rocky View Hospital. I tried to visit almost every day. I felt like I had to. Working and visiting my dad took over my life. Sometimes I just felt like I needed a day or two away from the hospital. Playing video games and hanging out with friends was a good distraction, but if I didn't make it to the hospital, I'd feel bad about it. I felt like I should spend as much time with him as I could. The only time I felt like it was okay to be away was when I went to the ALS youth retreat in Saskatchewan. We did learning activities about grief and a sharing circle, but mainly we just hung out and talked to people who understood. Coming home from the retreat, I didn't feel alone. A lot of people felt like they had pressed pause on their life. After my dad passed away, I tried to go back to school, but it was too soon. I started working in a car dealership. I liked the people, but I didn't like the job. Still felt like my life was on pause. About 3 years after, I started to think about what I actually wanted to do in my life. I kept remembering the amazing nurses at the hospital and the hospice. The way they treated my dad, I became friends with them. The way they would talk with me and make me feel comfortable during my visits. The way they showed up at a celebration of life. They really helped my family and I. I'd done my best to help my dad for those 2 years. I felt like I wanted to help people. Maybe I could go into healthcare. Today I work up north as an oil field and event medic, but on my days off, I also get to work on amazing film sets as a first aid person. I think my dad would have loved to hear about all those things, but for me, the opportunity to help people is what matters. Looking back, I wish I had told my avionics teachers about my dad's ALS. I think they could have found some accommodations for me. But I am happy with the direction I am heading. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but I am also thinking about furthering my healthcare education. The most important thing is that I press play on my life again.
All right, Errol. Yeah, such a great idea, right? Things can happen to us, and it can make us press pause, but there has to be a choice, an active choice. And I love the laptop closing at the end. I'm pressing play on my life. I love it. So we'll give Errol a couple seconds to come up here. If you want to turn to the person next to you, share one thing that resonated with you in Errol's story. Ready, set, go. So you're not at north, obviously. Yeah. Oh, do you? Oh, cool. Yeah, well, now you're probably taking photos. You barely had any on your phone. There's some good ones? Cool. Okay, awesome. Cool. All right. Come on back, everyone. Rob, we haven't checked in for a while.
Just Kate says, pause play is such a powerful message.
Yeah.
It's so cool, Errol, that you chose that and went ahead with your life. It's hard to start again. So,
Yeah, and I love maybe how you tied it in with video games, because there's lots of people who play video games. I did a lot when I was a teenager, a little less now, but that idea, right? People know, they recognize the multiplayer, they recognize the metaphor of pressing play or pressing pause in the middle of things, right? And how unfinished that can make things feel, right? So I love that metaphor. So you just said you have lots more photos of the Northern Lights.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
About 50 from January.
Yes, yeah. It was a great season up there, apparently. Aaron and I, when we were working on his story, we were like, I was like, how many photos do you have? And he's like, I have 0 photos. And so I guess now you're taking lots of them, which is awesome.
Yeah. My dad hated photos, so he
Yeah.
doesn't have any.
Yeah, he doesn't have many. So as you were watching tonight, what was it like for you to be in the crowd watching your story up on the screen?
Not sure. Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did it feel like it took you back at all to those times?
It did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The camp that you talked about, is that something that still is going on?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
actually.
What was that like for you to be able to connect with other teenagers, young adults your age, who were going through something like that?
I knew I wasn't alone anymore going through it. And I met some lifelong friends from it.
That you still connect with now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, cool, awesome. So, I mean, when you think about sort of you talked about some of the healthcare provider interactions that you have. Is there one that you remember where someone treated your dad in a way that made you feel like, wow, they were really kind to him in that moment?
I know my dad was telling me there was once some student nurses who wanted to do a project on him. So they came up and asked him at Rocky View, and he said, of course.
Yeah. And so they were actually interested in his
Yeah.
life. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
And then there was another nurse, and she went traveling to Croatia, and she bought a little stuffed beaver and named it Randy after my dad, and took pictures of it and sent them to my dad.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Man, I mean, there's lots of healthcare providers, that interact with people with ALS and their families. And what I really appreciate about your story is how that had such a big influence on you, right? And it's interesting because you're always thinking about the person you're caring for, right? There's all these physical acts of caregiving that are occurring for someone with ALS. And I think sometimes it could be easy for healthcare providers to forget that there's little eyes watching. There's kids, there's family members, there's friends who are all part of that experience too. So if there was one thing you would want to share with a healthcare provider, it's something they could take away from your story, what would it be?
Maybe if it's an ALS patient, listen to them, know what works for them, and kind of work together to figure out what will work.
Yeah, talk to people,
Yeah.
right? Understand. Yeah, I think, you talked a bit about being able to play video games with your dad. Was there anything sort of, as things progressed, that you were able to do together that were really important or meaningful for you?
Watched a lot of hockey in 2014 there.
Yeah.
Until
that was a
Carey
good year
Price
to
got
watch
injured.
hockey. Yeah. That was a
Yeah.
great year to watch hockey, wasn't it? Unfortunately, 25 will go down as a very disappointing year to watch hockey. So, yeah.
I just wish Montreal won that year
Yeah.
for my dad and myself.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, big Montreal fan.
Family team.
Yeah, family team. Awesome. So watching hockey, and that was a shared experience that you guys were
Yeah.
able to do together that you remember. Yeah. Cool. I mean, so there's lots of other parts of your story that we could explore. But I want to ask you, if there's one thing that you would hope someone would take away from your story, what would it be?
That it might take a few years to figure out what you want to do after some stressful years in your life. And it's never too late.
Yeah. I mean, how many years after all of that happened to when you said 3 years? 3 or 4 years?
About 4 years till I did the EMR program.
Yeah.
And another 3 after that.
Yeah. And now you're doing something that you really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that's such a great message, right? It may take a bit of time to press play again, right? And that's all right. It may, you may have to, try a few things that don't work out. This program, that program. One of the things that you mentioned that stood out to me also was that you never really told anyone in your school what you were going through, and because of that, you weren't able to maybe get the additional support that you could have used probably to stay in that program, right? So, there's lots of little lessons like that, I think, for people in the healthcare system, in the education system, to understand what's going on for families when someone is diagnosed with ALS so they can support in a more meaningful way. And I think that's one thing I sort of take away from your story, right, is maybe encouraging people. It may feel like you're on pause right now, but 3-4 years, it doesn't matter. You will be able to press play at some point if you have that expectation in your life. If there was another 20-year-old in the room right now, what would you say to them? Or if 20-year-old Errol was in the room, what would you say to him?
Would tell him to go back to school earlier into healthcare.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Errol, for being here, getting up on stage. It's not easy to get up on stage, in front of a bunch of people to share a story, talk about it. And I know you said that this was not maybe your favorite thing, but let's give him a big round of applause. He did it. So awesome. Thank you. That was awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we have another digital story, and then we have one short thing we're going to show right at the end here. This, I don't know, we can say Ireland's story. This is almost like a double header in a way that we got to hear Peyton's story. And you notice that Peyton has a sister in the photo. And Ireland was in a lot of those photos, and she got to tell a story about her mother too. And so we're coming back to that story, but from a different place. And what I love about that is it shows how everyone has a story, right? It may be similar experiences, similar moments, but everyone has their own experience of it. And so now we get to hear from Ireland about her experience with her mother. So here we go. Let's roll by book or by heart.
Coming home from school, I was often greeted by the smell of cookies in the oven and dinner on the stove. I loved to sit at the counter watching my mom cook, measuring ingredients, sometimes by the book, sometimes by heart. She moved effortlessly, confidently, knowing the kitchen like it was the back of her hand. Eventually, she handed me the measuring cup, walked me through the steps, how to read a recipe, how to level flour. She was patient and gentle, even when I turned the kitchen into a disaster. She was always there to teach me, to guide me, and to pay attention to the little details. But then things began to change when my mom was diagnosed with ALS. I remember the first time she dropped a spoon in the kitchen. The sound echoed through the silent house as we both looked at the spoon and then at each other with fear in our eyes. Knowing I was watching, she quickly picked it up and smiled at me, the fear hidden away so fast. Soon, she couldn't walk without help, relying on a cane that turned into a walker and eventually became a wheelchair. Talking grew difficult too, her once clear voice and radiant laugh turning slow and slurred. Eventually, words had to be borrowed from a computer that spoke for her. The hands that had once effortlessly mixed, guided, created, could no longer lift a spoon. But thanks to my dad, we found ways to fully experience the world with her. We saw the rhinos graze the plains of the Masai Mara, the Colosseum in Rome. She laughed with my dad in Chicago and never missed a hometown game for me and my siblings, a silent cheer in her eyes. The mother I knew, still there, but different, aching to look after her children. In turn, we began to look after her. The kitchen called to me, and I began to bake for her. She would sit across the counter from me, her eyes following my every move, just as mine had. The role reversal hung heavy around us at first, but we both wanted those moments together, to feel happiness in a time of suffering. At first, she corrected me often, shaking her head when I rushed, reminding me the importance of slowing down and remembering the small steps. But as time passed, her instructions faded into quiet smiles, pride in her eyes. The best part was putting the cookies in the oven and sitting together, waiting, sometimes in silence, sometimes with laughter. It was more than baking. It was my way of stepping in for her the way she had always stepped in for us. The quiet evenings in the kitchen were our ritual, a constant in a time of uncertainty. Last Christmas, 8 years after my mom passed away, I graduated with my master's degree, a milestone celebration that I wish I could have shared with her. As we sat around the Christmas tree laughing and reminiscing on the past year, my dad pulled out a massive box from behind the tree and put it in front of me. He said, "Congratulations, sweetheart," as I tore at the paper. A Mixmaster sat in front of me, and immediately my mind raced back through all those calm kitchen table moments. Baking by heart, it was the legacy I was meant to carry on. The gift from my family was a reminder. Today, the Mixmaster sits on my kitchen counter, a constant tether to the woman who taught me so much. I use it weekly, if not daily, and every time I bake, I feel her. I slow down, our hearts connecting. Baking still remains a constant in my life, but I know now that there's no recipe for life, no manual for how to be a caregiver to your parent. Sometimes people can show you, tell you, and help you. But other times, you just have to follow your heart.
There we go. It's an amazing story, Ireland. There's no guidebook for this, right? There's lots of people who walk this road. Sometimes you just need to follow your heart to know what those moments are, how you can connect well with the people that you're caring for. I love it. Beautiful message. Whenever I see you pulling the cookies out of the oven, I always tear up a little bit because I think it's amazing. You see your mom in those moments, right? It's beautiful. So I'll let you guys turn to one last time to the person next to you. Share one thing that resonated with you in Ireland's story, and then we'll have a chance to chat with her. Ready, set, go.
Second time I saw it.
Your story always gets me. It always gets me. I don't know how. I've seen it a million times. There's something about that moment where you're pulling out this cookies at the end. I know. Yeah, it's Corey filmed it. All right, cool. Well, we'll have to give a shout out to Corey for it. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Well, I haven't asked a single question. All right. Awesome. Cool. All right. Come on back, everyone. I think we should probably start with a bit of a shout out for the cinematographer here. Corey, where are you? Raise your hand. There he is.
Corey.
Yes, Corey. Wonderful shots of the spoon hitting the floor, of the cookies coming from the oven. It's great to have someone to help you. He nailed it. That was part of in the workshop. We were just like, well, why don't you just film some of these things? And you were like, I think I have someone who can help me. So it's awesome. So I mean, man, there's so many things we can talk about in your story. It's such a beautiful story and the way you put it together. But I'm going to start with a question I asked a lot of people tonight. What was it like for you to watch it up on the screen tonight? You said you hadn't watched it in a while.
Yeah, that was my first time watching since we finished it in October. So it was good. I feel like a lot of the time we spent together, I spent really emotional and crying, but today I felt like emotional and happy being able to watch everybody else's stories and like seeing it come to life on a bigger screen, and for my family to see it. I feel like really proud of how it turned out, and I just love watching all of those photos back. So it was great.
Yeah, there were some duplicates between you and Peyton. I think that trip to Africa was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Ended up in both your stories. Yeah. There's these beautiful moments of you and your mom in the kitchen in your story, and I think you did such a wonderful job of writing it in a way that brought us into those scenes. Tell us a bit more about why baking was something that you guys connected in such a deep way. It sounds like you were probably one of the only kids in the kitchen.
Still am.
Yeah. So, why was that such an important moment for you and your mom to spend that time together in there?
Yeah, I think it was always important. When I was younger, I think it felt more like habit of just being there and spending that time together and like an eagerness to learn. And I don't think that it really like resonated that connection with me until later, until like a few years after she had passed away. And then I had kind of refound this love for baking and finding that connection again. It kind of just like pieced together, I would say.
Yeah, brought you back to those
Definitely.
moments, right? I love that part at the end, you know, with the Christmas gift. One of the things I remember from the workshop, which was so cool, is when you first told that story about getting that Christmas gift, Peyton was like, we had no idea that mattered to you so much. You know, like they just got you a Christmas gift. You were the one that connected it to your mom. You know, I think you just moved into Peyton's basement.
I did.
Yeah. And so the Mixmaster is probably in storage right now.
Yeah, mine is, but Peyton's is on the counter.
Okay, there we go. So there's one. There's a connection there. You know, how do you play this role now? You know, and I think all of you, both you and Peyton, talked about bringing pieces of your mom into your life right now. One of them for you is baking. You know, what does that look like in your family? And do you guys, you know, when you're eating, is there specific things that your mom would make that you're eating together and you remember her? You know, what is that ritual like now for you?
I think now, like, me and my dad do a lot of baking together now, actually. Banana bread, we're always making banana bread with 1,000 bananas, and then Dad's mad that it's undercooked, but it's fine. So I think, like, trying to continue that. I was living on the East Coast for 6 years, and I think baking was, like, a big part of what I was doing in my daily routine. So kind of getting back into that now and, like, dropping it off at friends and making stuff for kind of no reason. I love being in the kitchen, and it's just, like, a fun place for me to be, not only to connect with my mom, but also just to kind of feel calm. So I enjoy being there. So I'm trying to work that into my routine now.
Yeah, I love it. Your story it feels calm. You know, like the music you chose, you know, the image you chose, the way that things were slow. You know, what was one of the video editing things you did that you're really proud of? Because it's beautifully made, the story.
Thank you. I don't know. I'm just thinking about the spoon dropping. I love the spoon. That wasn't me. That was Corey. But I think, like, it was easy to learn from you. Also, like, just the fading of photos and making it flow nicely together. When you're making it, it feels really choppy, and then when you actually see it and it flows so nicely, it just, like, really connects the story, I feel.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the spoon moment, I think people feel it, you know, like, and we can just imagine the look on your guys' faces when you see that hit the floor, right? And that's a moment, I think that's, you know, that draws people into your experience, right? And, you know, from your eyes and your mom's eyes connecting to wondering, what would that be like, you know, for you know, how old were you, 13, 14, you said?
Yeah, I was in junior high. So
junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a junior high girl to connect with her mom and have this fear, right? And you talked about in that moment how immediately she smiled, you know, and moved on with things. Did you guys ever have a chance to have conversations about those fears, you know, and those difficult things that were occurring for her? And what did those conversations look like? Were they in the kitchen? You know, how did you have those conversations?
I think I wish that we had more, but also it's easy to say that now being 24 and looking at myself when I was 13, and I wish that you could have had those conversations. But when she was quite sick, I had the opportunity to write her a letter to express a lot of those things, and we talked back and forth kind of through the computer, which was amazing. But I do think that was an easy outlet for me to be able to talk to her about it. But now looking back, it's one of those things that obviously you wish that A, you could talk to her every day, but B, that you could talk about that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you wish you could talk with her every day, right? Do you ever have moments when you're baking where you actually feel, like you say that connection, but what does that feel like? You know, what would that look like in your daily life? And, you know, just because I think there's people here, parents, right, who have kids who may wonder, what is that connection going to look like in the future?
Yeah, I think it shows up in a lot of ways. I'm wearing her coat and her ring and her purse, and I feel like I try and wear her a lot to show that too. And it just feels kind of warm, and when something comes out the way that you want it to, it's exciting to begin with, especially when it's something new, but kind of just feeling her presence is there. And that was something that when I was living in a city she had never been to, I was in Halifax, and all of my friends she had never met, and I was able to kind of find that outlet in the kitchen that she is there with me. So those little things, kind of, no exact word to describe it, but always a feeling.
Yeah, well, it was really cool to see you up on stage getting your master's degree. What did you get it in?
It's a Master of Marine Management.
Okay.
I'm a marine biologist.
Okay, wait.
Living in Calgary.
You're
I have a remote job.
That's awesome. I was going to say you're pretty much living every like young girl's dream, marine biologist. So that's amazing. And I think your mom would have been really proud to see that happen, right? And yeah, is there big moments in your life like getting your master's? Is there like in the middle of those moments? Is that a difficult thing, or is that more of like a proud thing for you when you think about your mom being there?
I think it's both. I think I have such an amazing support system. My family is closer than ever, and I have 3 amazing siblings who we check in on each other all the time, which is amazing. So I think it's part of like leaning on that support system, and it feels amazing, but also like looking into the crowd. And there are people with both of their parents there, and you're not experiencing that. But I think that it's okay, and it's okay to be sad. And I think it's like a pride, but also, of course, I think that emptiness is kind of always going to be there, and I think that is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, yeah. I think we've heard it in a couple of the stories tonight. That pride and that emptiness, or that joy and the longing. Those things, they can coexist, right? And I think going through these big milestones in life and sort of recognizing that there's someone you wish was here, but at the same time you can be proud and joyful. I think that's one of the coolest things that I've learned about young adults in particular, who have gone through loss early in life, right? Is they have this expanded capacity, right, for feeling, right, to be able to feel all the things all at once. And I think when I look back at my own experience as a young adult, feeling anything at all was scary. Right? It was just like, whoa, I don't know what to do with this. But I feel like a lot of the young adults, at least up on the stage tonight, a lot of the ones that I've connected with who've gone through something like ALS with their family, they have this ability to feel, which I think is pretty incredible. And I think your mom would be pretty proud of that for sure. So anyways, I'm an old softie. I've got my own kids now, right? So I'm always thinking about my own kids and hoping that they see this in my life too. So last question. If you were looking at this story as a 13-year-old, what do you think you would think about yourself today? 13-year-old you watching this story in the future, how would you respond?
That's a great question. I think, obviously, the person who I was when I was 13 is very far from the person I am today. I kind of made like a split-second decision to move to the East Coast and to pursue something that I had been kind of behind closed doors passionate about in marine biology. So I think she would be like surprised for sure, but I think that she would be proud and happy that I'm now able to feel all of these emotions. I think it's easy to be closed off for a long time. Peyton has taught me so much about my emotional range, and I am so thankful for that every day, because now I'm able to have these conversations. And I think that she would just sort of look at my mom and cherish that moments even just like a little bit more than she did at the time. And she'd be surprised though.
Yeah. I think she'd be pretty happy too,
Definitely.
Right? I mean, you're a marine biologist. That's amazing. Awesome. Well, man, there's so much more we could talk about in your story, just like all of them tonight. But thank you so much for being willing to share this, and for the way that you cared for your mom's story in the way you chose to put it together, right? It's really, you can feel the tenderness and the connection in the way that you told it. So I think it's really encouragement for all of us here, just like all the stories that we got to hear here tonight. So let's give Ireland one more round of applause. Awesome. Really, thank you. All right. Wow. Man. When you have your own kids, it's a different experience telling stories like this. We have one final story that we're going to share tonight. It's by another young adult who lives down in Lethbridge, Adam. And Adam is, he's got the flu, so he couldn't be here. He's supposed to be live with us online tonight. So we're just going to watch Adam's story, and we're going to use it sort of as the final wrap-up for the evening. Adam's story is a little different because Adam signed up for the digital storytelling workshop, and then I found out he's a filmmaker. So it looks a little different, a little more professional, a little more polished because him and his crew got together and they made this, I think in a single weekend while we were creating these digital stories. They were out filming and putting this all together, and I think it was amazing what he was able to do in a weekend to put this together. But yeah, here's Adam's short film called The Little Things. Here we go.
I'm Adam Tom. I got nominated by Spencer Penny to do the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I nominate Aiden Peacock, Andrew Tom, and Gary Rand.
Is it filming? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
I think when you're faced with sort of the finitude of life, and you're forced to, especially at a young age, you approach everything differently. I think it's probably the most significantly marking point of my life, and it continues to be. It's something I always end up reflecting on.
56-year-old Gerard Tom says when he heard the word ALS from his doctor, it was like being punched in the stomach.
It's a pretty hard pill to swallow at first. But not all about me.
My dad loved to have coffee in the mornings and just sort of enjoy those little moments. And, you know, as he got more sick, he was unable to do that. So his ability to swallow, became much more difficult. But I remember one time, about a month before he passed away, he took it upon himself to really kind of just sit out on the deck and in his wheelchair and actually try, as slow as it was, to sip ever so slowly every bit of coffee he had in his cup. And that taught me a lot about just not taking those even mundane things that we do every day for granted. It really made me start to see that, there's so much in our life we just rush past all the time under the guise of growth and achievement and advancing in life and all the things that we think make our life really, really meaningful. There's so much in our life that is so out of our control, and the less we acknowledge that, the more we miss the everyday beauty of our life.
Yeah, there is no cure, but events like this give us hope that maybe someday something will happen.
And we're never really present, but he just was present all the time to everybody, to whatever he was doing, to the people he was with. He loved to garden and he loved to just work in the yard, and that never really stopped. Even when he got sick, he would go out there in his leg braces and his cane, and even eventually he would just be out there as a presence. In my dad's memoir, which he asked my mom and I to finish before he passed away, he finished all of his parts in it, but he wanted us to finish it. And so that was a great challenge for us, because it was very difficult for me especially to find the words to actually communicate the impact that he has left on me. And it continues to be, and it's hard for me to find the words even now to express how much of an impact he's had on my life by his example. But I think a really telling line in his memoir kind of sums up his whole attitude. He writes, "This has led me on a journey to discover the narrow path and to obtain peace in my heart with a greater relationship with God. Even with this dreadful disease, I find myself okay. I'm happy and at peace. My spiritual journey spanning my lifetime is by no means a great story. However, for me to tell it, to write it out, has been very healing, given me strength, and has been an opportunity to reflect on my life, past, present, and future. My life will end surely, but so will everyone else's at some point. Knowing my time is somewhat limited is comforting in a way. I must make the most of this precious time I have, and when it's my turn to kneel before our Lord, I can only hope he will be pleased." That's the essence of my father's example and his life. Having coffee, going for a walk, taking photographs, looking people in the face. Those things are so easy to rush past, but they're really where the substance of our life lives.
Oh, that's good.
As much as, in many ways, I wish that he didn't have to go through this, and in some ways I wish we didn't either. At the same time, there's always a bit of light that comes through those cracks. In the best of ways, it has changed the way I approach my life and the world for the better. I'm pulled in a lot more now by just small, little, ordinary moments. And I try to walk with that sort of as a philosophy every single day, and in my faith life as well, which for my dad was the most important thing. That's probably the greatest gift that he left, was his hope, his joy, his trust in that not everything, the end isn't dark, no matter how dark the valley kind of seems as you're going through it. We're all going to die. And as he always used to say, he just had a better idea of when. It's often in those kind of dark moments that you end up actually seeing, the more finer lights in your life. The smaller things become a little bit more brighter.
There you go. Well, Adam, I think you're watching. Thank you for being willing to share that story with us. It's beautiful. And, I loved, my favorite part of the whole story is ripping around on the chair, and it shows some joy, right, in the midst of a very dark time. And I think that sort of was something that in the workshop we talked about, we all loved, right, is Adam talked a lot about in his story about in those dark moments, you can actually recognize the light a little bit better, right? There's these little cracks that let things through, and to me, ripping around on the chair was a little crack, right, in the midst of a very difficult time. So I really appreciate, Adam, that you were able to sort of convey your dad's life message and his story in a way that was still part of yours. And I think that's what's so cool about all the stories here tonight, is that once you share a story, someone who listens to it gets to be part of it too. So you guys all get to be a part of these stories now. You get to carry the wisdom that was available to you in these stories into the other areas of your life, and who knows, maybe the other people that you interact with in the world. I think one of the coolest things that I've seen from this is how all the parents, all the the loved ones, that are here or are not here, are still speaking. Right, they're all still speaking because they live on in the people. Right, the people that they've influenced, the way that they've chosen to live their life. And I think that's pretty cool. As someone who now is, like I said, an old softie because I have my own kids, I really love that idea about how we can still speak through the lives of others. And so hopefully you guys have been able to see how that's possible tonight through the stories of these amazing young adults. I guess I just realized, Dan, you're not quite a young adult anymore. I think you're 44. Sorry for outing you or whatever. But I realized tonight, I was like, as we were talking. But, young maybe in years, but I would say wise in wisdom. And so thank you all, to all the young adults, Dan included, for sharing this wisdom with us tonight. I know I've learned a lot from working with you guys and getting to talk through all these things, but also from the conversations that we got to have up on stage and the ones that we had that didn't get to be included in the stories. I always feel like I learn more from stories and working with people than sometimes they get to learn from me, and that's definitely the case when it comes to these stories. So thank you all for being here tonight, for being a part of these conversations. Like I said, by now you probably know that this is probably the coolest people you ever meet are here in the room. So feel free to hang out for a little bit afterwards too. I think we have got some drinks and snacks. We can sit around. We've got this for a few more hours. So keep that conversation going. It doesn't have to end tonight, right? You can talk about it with your friends as you leave. You can make sure to go and say hi to all the storytellers. If you want, share what resonated with you in their story. I know they would love to hear that. But yeah, thank you all for being here and for being a part of these stories. It's been a wonderful time with you all. So I'll pass it over to Leslie to sort of close us off here. But thanks again for being here, being a part of this.
Thank you. I think this night has exceeded what we had originally hoped for, so thank you to everybody who's been involved. I just want to say thank you to the C-Space staff. They've been exceptional at helping us host this event here. Up in the booth is Alex. He's our technical director who's been incredible at kind of piecing this all together to make it seem also seamless. And we will be having this is recorded, and it's going to be on our website so that you can share it or watch it again. Thank you to Rob for managing our Q&A. You've done such a great job. You will forever step into this role when I ask you, so thank you. To Mike, you know, every time that you touch the society, I'm always just amazed at the work that you do and how you do it. You are really a special person, and we're honored of all the times that we get to work with you on this. And we've done this before with caregivers. We've done this before with people living with ALS. This is the first time that we've done this with young adults, and it's given us an opportunity to look further inside and see some of the pieces that I think we were missing. And our intention is, if the storytellers are willing to share, that we're going to use this as part of the supports that we offer young parents who have young children who might be in a similar situation. And we have Heather here who facilitates our Compass for the Caregiver program. And so we've talked about how we could use some of these videos to help our caregivers, help them navigate that. And finally, to our storytellers, you know, I think everyone at the Society always talks about how we're really honored to be in the space with you. And I think tonight, we'll all go back and we'll all talk about how great every moment of tonight was. And again, we know how hard it is to put yourself out there and to talk about this really tough moment in your life or these tough moments. And so we're really thankful that you've decided to do that tonight and to share it tonight and hopefully with our community in the future. So thank you. So the conversation's not over. We'd love for you to stick around and chat some more. So thank you everybody for coming. And everybody that's virtually as well too. Rob, is there anything that, no, that's great. Okay, thank you so much everyone. Take care.